mountains. It's a big chunk of land. It's not just this little piece we call Palestine there. This cave was there a long time, and they worshiped the fertility god, and he had a name Pan in this place. Pan in the pipes. You've seen little pictures of a half-man, half-goat fellow with a pipe playing the flute. You have the Pied Piper, you have from the Grimm's fairy tale, leading the children to the cave. That's what they're doing here in Batu. They're leading their children right to hell. That's what it is. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend the Hindus, but you are wrong. And this is an ancient mistake. That's what it is. Yes, there are spiritual entities in that cave, but they are not there for your benefit. They are there for your harm. Now, a Stone Age image of Asherah was found in the ruins of Dan. What is Dan? Most of you don't know about Dan, do you? Well, Dan was one of the tribes of Israel who was thrown out of Bani Israel for their Pan worship, for their serpent cult worship. They're known as Danites. They left their mark all over Europe. And their mark is all over the world now. The Mormons have a particular tribe of enforcers, and they call them the Danites. But they're excluded from Bani Israel because of their idolatry and their homosexuality. And they're directly related with the Merovingians. This Asherah pole was in northern Israel, which included the Lebanon at the time. The goddess strongly resembles her neighboring deities Anet, Astarte, and Ashtaroth. This Asherah with the Dan is part of the serpent cult. Now the archetype here is, you should remember this, you have a high priest, long robes, big hat, staff, kind of like the Lord of the Rings fella. And you have a goddess. They had several goddesses in the Lord of the Rings. These Lady of the Lake, the Lady of the Forest, They called them the elves. These elves are real. There is a real race. It belongs to the dragon cult bloodline. And they stand behind the leaders. They're magicians. They're magi. Okay, next slide, please. Dan shall be a serpent. This is from the Old Testament, the book of Torah. Dan shall be a serpent, an adder by the way, and a viper by the path. This was after Dan committed fornication with Pan. In the Old Testament, now Torah, they called idolatry fornication. Why? Because you're worshiping a false god. And that's what they did. Ephraim, another one of the sons of Prophet Yusuf, came to be identified with northern Israel and Dan. And the Torah says, let her alone, because she's an idolater. Idolater. To Dan was given the symbol of Scorpio, which in the ancient Egyptian zodiac was a snake. This includes the Druze cult. Any people from the Middle East there? You know people from the Druze cult, don't you? Sure you do. And in the Druze, you have, you've got Jewish Druze, you've got Christian Druze, you've got Muslim Druze, they got all kinds of Druze. The Druze are chameleons. That's what they are. They're from this area called the Lebanon in Syria. It's their turf. This is ancient pagan turf, and it's being fought over right now as we speak. Why? Because the pagans want it back. They want their cave. What would happen if you took a stand here and you stopped the Hindus going to the Batu caves? You'd have a war on your hands, wouldn't you? Right. It's the same thing here. They've been waiting a long time to get back to this cave. And don't think for a moment that they really need to have their temple in Jerusalem, because they already have an alternative site, and it's in the Mount Hermon in the Lebanon, where they used to practice human sacrifice up high in the mountains where the Asherah pole was in honor of the mother goddess. The temple's already been rebuilt. It's prefabricated. It's sitting in warehouses waiting to be erected as we speak. Next slide, please. Art thou not aware that we have let loose all manner of satanic forces upon those who deny the truth, and we will impel them towards sin with strong impulsion? What is sin? Disobedience. What's one of the three principles of spiritual determinism? Obedience. Allah is compelling them towards disobedience. Why? Because they're not fearing Him and not honoring Him. So Allah says, okay, Iblis, go. You have full license. It's in your contract. Delude them. These are deluded people, and they're governing the world right now. This is a Catholic archbishop, no, more than that, a greater, what is it called? Cardinal O'Connor. He's called the Pope of America. He's run by the Jesuits out of Fordham University in New York State. There he is with, who's this fellow? Tony Blair? He is. Who's this fella? Oh, the great brown hope? Huh? They put him in place so that all you little brown-skinned people would feel good for a while. Huh? That's why he was put in place, to give you false hope, false senses of security. You remember when he went to Cairo? What did he say? Oh, we're going to make everything better. He's a liar. And this is his coach. And who's this guy? He ran against him. They're coached by the same fellow. Who is this guy? America severed all relations with the Vatican in 1867. Why? Because the Jesuits murdered Abraham Lincoln, and they knew it. You think they would sever relationship with the Vatican if they didn't have strong evidence? Those men that ran America 170 years ago were a lot smarter than the guys who are running it today. If you wanted to get a PhD in 1876, you had to be able to speak Latin and Greek and English, plus another language, fluently, well enough to be able to translate one chapter from Al Torah. Earth. And Mark is going to hold him in his right hand. He's going, where are the kings of the earth now? Where are they? This is Kabil's curse. So this is the archetype I'm painting for you. I told you I would give you an archetype so you can discern evil. This is it. He was branded so that men would be loath to kill him, slow to kill him. He became a shaman, practitioner of magic. Not very many people care to go anywhere near the people who practice magic now, do you? How many people here are ready to kill a Bomo for God? Huh? Not many of you. Why? You're afraid. You're afraid of the Bomo. You're afraid he's got a student someplace who's going to cast a spell on you, or maybe his wife. You're afraid of the chief pirate who's protecting him. Wherever you see ignorance, wherever you see poverty, you will have shamans and you will have a homeless pirate living behind high walls. That's what happens. All right? Now you have a picture of evil. This is an archetype. It's all because Habil killed his brother. For what? Selfish reasons. Next slide, please. So, what did Cain have to do? He's exiled now. He's no longer in fellowship with the family of Adam. the prophetic stream, he's been exiled. He's no longer having fellowship, communication, or guidance from Allah. So what can he do now on the earth? He has one thing. He subverts any host colony that he gets to. He's a subverter. That's what he does. That's what his children do. They subvert people who are apathetically kind-hearted. That's what they do. They get your pity and then they subvert you. They're real sociopaths. They're psychopaths. They have no feeling for you. No feeling for your benefit, no feeling for your heart. But they're very good at pretending that they do. Especially for flag wavers. Okay? I hope you're getting this. Now, he has to persuade, he has to lie to any host colony, and he has to tell them, hey, I'm a Canaanite. I really know what's good for you. If you follow me, you're going to have progress. You've heard that, haven't you? In most of your political speeches, progress. Progress. I know women in this country are putting their brothers through religious school by earning their money as prostitutes. Is that progress? Huh? No. No. Exact opposite. But it looks like progress, doesn't it? I know women, my wife has told me, because she's gone into the bathroom, the toilets, in this country. She's from Thailand. She said, Papa, she called me Papa. She said, these young ladies, they go in, they have hijab. They come out, no hijab. And they look sexy. That's hypocrisy. In practice. In your country. Under your nose. Where's the office of Al-Hizbah? Oh, that's another topic. Okay. So, he has to lie and say, I'm your man. What did the Prophet say? The best guy for the job is the one who doesn't want it. Right? So why are you voting for the one who says he wants it? I want to be your leader. You need to have the leader say, no, I don't want it. I don't want this. That's the man you need to vote for. And you don't vote for him. You pull him out of this house and you put him in this chair of the Khalifa. You don't give him an option because you have to convince him that you need him. He will fight you, or she will fight you. What are you doing? You're apathetic, the chief liar, Iblis. Who did this father of sociopaths, psychopaths, shamans, sorcerers, high priests, idolatry, and banksters, murderers, shysters, and thieves? Where did he go? Where did he have to go to found the system that was the old world order, but is now transmogrified to the present rate of the rage of the new world order? Where did he have to go? He went to a place called Druidia. He went east to the land of Nod, the land of wandering. This is in present-day Pakistan, West Pakistan and the India, the border there along the Hindu Valley. I'll show you in just a minute. You can read about this in a book called Noah's Flood and Extinct Humans. They're hard to get. This country doesn't have them. I brought them here. Somebody stole them from me. I wonder why. Next slide, please. These are modern-day Dravidians. That's an old picture, maybe about 7 years. But they're black-skinned fellows. They've become today's untouchable. This is ancient Dravidia. Now, we're going back about 10,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago. This is where Cain went to, Kabil. This is the land where he had to go to, outside of the promised land. Outside of the land that was dedicated to the prophetic children of Adam. He was exiled. Now, well, these are the real Dravidians. Who are these guys? A bit pale, aren't they? They come from north of the Caucasus. These are Aryans. They invaded this land about 4,000 years ago. They took over. And they changed the religion that was Dravidian and that was idolatrous. When Cain came to this place, and you know what these men were doing? They didn't look this apathetic. They were brave warriors at the time. Well dressed. They had necklaces of dried tongues around their head. And they used the tongues to guide them through the forest. Where did they get the tongues? From other men. They wanted to carry the spirit of the other men to help them against the beast in the forest, so the tiger wouldn't eat them. It's that simple. This is a very primitive culture. They exported this culture all the way to Australia. These people have more in common genetically with the Australian Aboriginal than they do with, these gods and goddesses here. Okay? So this is this area. Now, if we go back to about 8,000 BC, these, and less than 8,000 BC, something happened round about then, because this area suddenly transformed from this culture to a city culture. It just happened almost overnight. And the cities were actually quite sophisticated. They had paved streets, they had a fleet, they were involved in commerce, they even had indoor plumbing. Next slide, please. So something happened there. This is my studied hypotheses. I say that Cain, Kabir, went to this region and formed his first religious civilization. His first civilization based on false religion. And he took these people and got them worshiping like this, got them all dressed up, got them a little bit concerned about their welfare in a different manner. He convinced them that they were going to have progress under his guidance if they worshiped his goddess and allowed him to choose the next human sacrifice. Because I explain this in my book Trinity. You have it on your DVD. You should read that if you want to understand the psychology behind human sacrifice and giving back to God a piece of himself. These people believe that. They believe this. So this is this is supposed to be the risen Christ, the risen Jesus. And what are these guys doing? This is the Olympics here, right? They're worshiping the same as these guys, and same as this fellow, hands up in the air. And this is all under some sort of Catholic auspice here. And who's this? What's he got? Oh, these are snakes, right? Oh no, that's a dragon. What's this? This is a phoenix, a double-headed phoenix, double-headed eagle. That's not a priest from the Eastern Orthodox Church. Okay? They've been corrupted as well. Next slide, please. So, what happened? This is oh gosh. Do I have to tell you? I don't think so. This is one of the pieces of evidence we have of ancient Dravidia. They were phallic worshippers way back when. It's a fertility cult. Kabir sophisticated this worship and said, look, God is male and female. That's why he made men and women. So half of God is male, the other half is female. If we bring them together, we have a whole God. And I know how to bring them together. And if you come together with me, you'll really be blessed. Are you getting this? These people started to believe this stuff. They took this sophisticated, they took this unsophisticated religion and made it sophisticated, and then exported it to Babylon, over here. We know that they did. We know there's evidence of mass migration. periodically from Dravidia, from the Hindus Valley, all the way over to the Sudan, Ethiopia. The last mass migration occurred about, I think, 1,000 years before Christ. Now, next slide, please. Oh, here's this modern phallic worship. That's what it is. It's the same religion. It's no different. This is in St. Peter's Square. This is the obelisk of Pharaoh. Probably the same one that Moses saw. They moved it all the way from Egypt to St. Peter's Square, and they put it in the center of the square. This is a lady from an ancient cult in Hindu worshiping the phallus. They still do this in Japan and Korea. They have an annual phallus worshiping day. The women create a giant phallus and they carry it on their shoulders, marching down the street. They even lick phallic-shaped ice cream. Yeah, they do this to this day. And this cult hasn't gone away. And they like the dragon too. And there's the dragon. Okay? So this is ancient Egyptian phallic worship. Here it is again. Oh, what are they doing? Same thing that the Duke and the Duchess did, huh? In the Olympics, so that 2 billion people could see them. Here, well, this is the head of the penis. Here you have, actually, there's a 4-faced god. And what have they done here? The Catholics put it over this guy's head. They circumcised him. What's the hope? This is the female private part. That's what it is. This is an ancient fertility cult religion being worshipped today. This is the Israeli Supreme Court. That was put there by the wife of Lord Rothschild. Okay? Next slide, please. Chief pirate. This is called Catholic action. When the Catholics get angry, that's what they do. And they're still doing it. Am I trying to blame this all on the Catholics? No. But they have a very major part to play in the particular facade that's being practiced in the world today. Mischief. Is he Catholic? No. Is he? Is he? No. Why are they going to the Pope's funeral and kneeling? Are they Knights of Malta? Yes. 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 What do the Knights of Malta do? They have to take an oath of loyalty to the Pope. To the Pope! Is he an American? Yeah, yeah. Is the Pope American? No. Got a problem here. So divided loyalty. This is the essence of a secret society. They don't advertise the fact that they're Knights of Malta. They don't say, get up there and say, vote for me, I'm a Knight of Malta. They don't say that. They say, vote for me, I'll make your life better. I'll guarantee progress. Right? Next. Oh, yeah. They're Polarocrats. George Bush called the prosecution of Muslims a crusade. He used that word. That was not a Freudian slip. That was a word that means serious. Okay. Here's a picture of Madam Clinton. Here's another picture of her. But here's what she really looks like. What's going on here? This is propaganda. Okay? And what's this? These are dragons. You see? That's what they are. And what is this? This is the star of Ishtar from Babylon, from the dragon cult. These are called memes. In the modern academic, psychological, political, scientific terms, it's called a meme. M-E-M-E. We'll talk about this later. Next slide, please. Pablo Picasso put these memes in a very famous painting. I'm going to show you. Next slide. Here we have. We have a bull here. We have a right hand here. What's in that? You can't see very clearly, but I put it up here. What's that? That's a pentagram. It's a pentagram in the palm of the dead crusader. Broken sword. What's on his right arm? Right forearm? The cross. Is that a Christian cross? No, it is an ancient solar cross. The Christians just adopted it. It was never Christian. Matter of fact, there is no such thing as Christianity. It's just the same old pagan worship given a new name. That's all it is. And I don't mean to be inflammatory. I don't mean to insult Christians. But you have to realize the truth. The truth of the matter is that this is what Christianity represents. This is Catholic action. Okay? What's this? That's the Eye of Horus. Pablo Picasso did this. He put all the symbolism in this very famous painting. Who is this? This is Baal. We'll talk about these forms later. This is the Cyclops, the one-eyed Cyclops. The bull, the Baal worship, and the Madonna and child. He's painted the reality here. This is the end of the Queen of Heaven and her child. The bull is not going to help them. Who's holding up the bull's tail? The arm of Iblis. It's all there in this picture. What's this? Newsprint. You can't see very well on this reproduction here, but the horse's body is covered with newsprint. That's a war horse. Propaganda. Pentagram in the arm. Okay, there's other symbolism here, but we don't have time to get into that. And this fellow's being devoured by the beast. That's the apathetic, ignorant, stupid man on the street. Okay? Being devoured. That's what's happening. Next slide, please. Here's El Cid, Antithetra. Nobody in his right mind gets dressed up like that to go to war and celebrates it. Nobody in their right mind does this. People in their right mind, this is what they do. All right? Now, he's sitting there, yeah, somewhere he's probably got a rifle, or maybe a gun, or a sword. He's ready for war, but he's not celebrating it. Okay? There's a difference. Next slide, please. Natural expressions of fitra. These kids are from South Sudan. They're Christians. They're starving. But look at natural fitra. Look at it. This is truly human. This is truly human. This truly human. Next slide. Not this. This is not human. Who is that? This is from Babylon. 10 minutes, okay, thank you. This is from Babylon. This is the wife of Iblis. Jinn. She has a name called Lilith. Others call her the wife of Baal or Ishtar. That's where we get the word star. This is not human, this is a jinn. We have here the symbols for sexual magic in her hand. We have the owl of you know the story of the Grail and Merlin and King Arthur. Merlin always had an owl on his shoulder. Okay, so this is where the owl comes from. The owl of the Bohemian Grove elitists. They have a big 30-foot statue of an owl. And they go there, these are the rich people of the world who govern in your countries. They go there to worship this owl every summer and to make their plans. And there are other things that take place there too. And these are the lions of Sybil, the mother goddess of ancient Turkey. The mother goddess of ancient Turkey, who was taken by Constantine the Great to Istanbul when he changed it to Constantinople. He took the statue of Sybil and her lions, set her up as the mother of Isa. He had the sculptors come in and refashion her a little bit and turn her into the mother of Jesus. That's what he did. That's Constantine, your Christian emperor. Huh? Are you Christians listening to me? I hope you do, because you need to understand the truth about the religion. It is false. Sorry to say that. It's a false religion. But your intentions are good. Are they not? Yeah, their intentions are very good. Except those who wish to practice the crusade. And they get into an airplane and drop firebombs on the children and the brothers and sisters that we have in other Muslim lands. And they'll do it here too, when they're ready. Right now they're getting ready to take Thailand. Did you hear what happened in Thailand the last few days? You should. You should know about these things. Because it's done in your name. In the name of Islam. Next slide, please. See, I try to keep up with current events. Why? Check. It was a command, is it not? Yes, it's a command for us to be aware of current events. How do I know? My daughter, who's in Thailand, called me. Tell me, Papa, don't tell anybody Mama Thai lady because they killed her short. That's how afraid they are of you. Huh? Yeah. This is going on right now, and it's being done on purpose. In your name. So, this is Babylon now. This was Babylon a century ago. Saddam Hussein was rebuilding it. Why? Why? This is Babylon. These are American troops approaching Babylon in 2002. This is the city for the kings of the earth, the one-eyed Babylonian cult. Next slide, please. Now, I think we'll stop here, and I'll take up with the one-eyed Babylonian cult after the break. But I hope I've made this very clear to you from start to finish where we stopped here. And I don't want you to become apathetic, because I put an awful lot of work into this preparation and to this presentation. We've got a lot of ground to cover yet. We're nowhere near finished. I've got another 3 hours. So enjoy your coffee, enjoy your conversations, and don't bother me too much because I have to go to the toilet. And it's founded on Gnosticism. And I was being trained to become an initiate in that system for 14 years. So I have some primary experience of these kinds of people, these kinds of thinking, and the anthroposophists, for the most part, they are good intentioned, well-meaning people. And if you were to confront them with the fact that they're idolaters, they would be highly insulted. Okay? Because they think that they're worshiping Jesus correctly. That's a cosmic Christos. This is part of Gnosticism. And they do give an awful lot of truth and an awful lot of good to the world. But it's just like it says in the Quran. I was so happy when I found the Quran because I was confused. But they will take 99% truth and it's mixed with 1% lie. And that's enough to take you to hell. It's enough. And they have perfected a system whereby all of the Gnostic, Kabbalistic ideas about gradations and radiations of God come to the earth, into creation, through, and they consider the jinn and the angels to be worshipful. They're doing exactly what the Quran says that people would do. They're worshiping these creatures, and they hold them in high esteem. So I was a member of that system for a long time. I was trained in astral travel. I could leave my body and go spy on people. I know about these things. I know some things about the practice of magic, and I was a Freemason for a number of years. And I never went up to the higher degrees because, fortunately, the fellow who introduced me to Freemason was a security chief for the geo satellite that has mapped the entire globe for mineral deposits. And he gave me his copy of the Masonic Bible, and I'm one of those fellows that actually reads. So I read the thing. And you get up, it's about 600 pages long, Morals and Dogma by Alfred Pike. And you get up to 2/3 of the way through, everything's fine. It's great ethics, great morals. But then when you get up to the operative degrees, beyond the 28 degrees, you start taking oaths, blood oaths, to demon gods, whom I knew from my study of the scripture that these were demons. From Al-Quran and Al-Kitab, I knew about these things. I said, what are these guys doing? This is wrong, it can't be right. My future was kicking in, you see. So I left and I never went back. So to answer your question, yeah, I wasn't there.
So, which is why we would like you to take the opportunity to learn from, somebody who's actually been. I think a lot of us skim the surface when we talk about the Illuminati, we talk about different cults, etc. But we don't actually know what they do. Dr. Omar is here, who has years and years of research, and his knowledge of the Old Testament, the New Testament, what's in the Talmud. One of the recent articles I saw you post is on the Talmud and the contents of the Talmud, which is really quite scary. And we've also put his books on DVD, on CD that you have within your bags. So please refer to them. We've also, those videos that we had of the previous Insight Forums, those are also good to watch. In fact, this is probably the gentlest introduction that Omar has done into his stuff. So you had it easy. We had it very different a couple of years ago, I think.
Mountains. It's a big chunk of land. It's not just this little piece we call Palestine there. This cave was there a long time, and they worship the fertility god, and he had a name Pan in this place. Pan and the pipes. You've seen little pictures of a half-man, half-goat fellow with a pipe playing flute. You have the Pied Piper, you have from the Grimm's fairy tale, leading the children to the cave. That's what they're doing here in Batu. They're leading their children right to hell. That's what it is. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend the Hindus, but you are wrong. And this is an ancient mistake. That's what it is. Yes, there are spiritual entities in that cave, but they are not there for Lebanon at the time. The goddess strongly resembles her neighboring deities Anet, Astarte, and Ashtaroth. This Asherah with the Dan is part of the serpent cult. Now the archetype here is, you should remember this, you have a high priest, long robes, big hat, staff, kind of like the Lord of the Rings fella. And you have a goddess. They had several goddesses in the Lord of the Rings. These Lady of the Lake, the Lady of the Forest, They called them the elves. These elves are real. There is a real race. It belongs to the dragon cult bloodline. And they stand behind the leaders. They're magicians. They're magi. Any people from the Middle East there? You know people from the Druze cult, don't you? Sure you do. And in the Druze, you have, you've got Jewish Druze, you've got Christian Druze, you've got Muslim Druze, they got all kinds of Druze. The Druze are chameleons. That's what they are. They're from this area called the Lebanon, in Syria. It's their turf. This is ancient pagan turf, and it's being fought over right now as we speak. Why? Because the pagans want it back. They want their cave. What would happen if you took a stand here and you stopped the Hindus going to the Batu caves? You'd have a war on your hands, wouldn't you? Right. It's the same thing here. They've been waiting a long time to get back to this. Okay, next slide, please. Dan shall be a serpent. This is from the Old Testament, the book of Torah. Dan shall be a serpent, an adder by the way, and a viper by the path. This was after Dan committed fornication with Pan. In the Old Testament, now Torah, they called idolatry fornication. Why? Because you're worshiping a false god. And that's what they did. Ephraim, another one of the sons of Prophet Yusuf, came to be identified with northern Israel and Dan. And the Torah says, let her alone, because she's an idolater. Idolater. To Dan was given the symbol of Scorpio, which in the ancient Egyptian zodiac was a snake. This includes the Druze cult, your benefit. They are there for your harm. Now, a Stone Age image of Asherah was survived, found in the ruins of Dan. What is Dan? Most of you don't know about Dan, do you? Well, Dan was one of the tribes of Israel who was thrown out of Bani Israel for their Pan worship, for their serpent cult worship. They're known as Danites. They left their mark all over Europe. And their mark is all over the world now. The Mormons have a particular tribe of enforcers, and they call them the Danites. But they're excluded from Bani Israel because of their idolatry and their homosexuality. And they're directly related with the Merovingians. Asherah pole was in northern Israel, which included the